Hello, Beverly. Good afternoon. I know we have decided that we would approach our reflections component of this e-portfolio by doing various small recordings instead of writing. And I think this would allow us to really spend some time deconstructing in a full way what this experience has been for us. How it may have impacted us professionally, if we wish to share a little bit on how it might have impacted us personally. It also allows us to talk a little bit about the process itself and what that was like, paying particular attention to what it was like talking to the various advocates within the space of persons who are deaf and hard of hearing, and focusing on the recommendations that they would have made for learners who are deaf and hard of hearing. And then we can conclude and make some summary statements. So this first component, we will take it in parts, and therefore there may be about 4 of these recordings that would appear on our reflections page. This first component, we're going to look a little bit about our overall reflections on the class EDSC 6001. So Beverly, if you could start and talk to us a little bit about your previous experience with the whole idea of exceptionalities. Was this the first time you were hearing about the topic of exceptionalities, or did you have experience with this before, either content knowledge or actual lived experience? If you can just share briefly.
Well, I previously had experience learning about exceptionalities in the UTT Bachelor in Education program. The exceptionalities that I would have chosen then was the blind. So I would have learned quite a lot about that exceptionality. After that time, I would have had a personal experience with my child with autism. So I would have gained a lot of knowledge about the characteristics of children with autism, as well as coming back to it, he also has congenital glaucoma. So the learning about the blindness back then turned out to be very useful. And furthermore, moving on as an educator with 23 years of experience and intermingling with children, you get to realize that, other exceptionalities exist out there. Moving on from that, this course brought to me a wealth of knowledge in other exceptionalities that, I can use in my daily life working with children.
Wonderful. For me, if I were to reflect, so like you, I would have come to the class with my own personal experience of living with some knowledge about certain exceptionalities. My daughter of 14 years is diagnosed with cerebral palsy, profound cerebral palsy, that is accompanied by an intellectual disability as well as epilepsy. And so for the last 14 years, I would have spent a good amount of time doing my own research in the area and within the disability movement, doing some advocacy. So I came to the class with that knowledge, but certainly the course, the expanse of the course in terms of its content allowed me to experience an understanding of a variety of other exceptionalities, including what we're doing our project on, which is the deaf and hard of hearing. But it also allowed us to look at the blind and visually impaired. It allowed us to look at autism, allowed us to look at ADHD, allowed us to look at learning disabilities. So I think that the EDSC course, 6001 course, is a very comprehensive course. It's very content intensive. So it exposes us to a lot of content. And we certainly have to do supplemental reading, maybe well after the course is finished, to be able to enhance our knowledge in the areas that we may not have been so familiar with. One thing that stood out for me in the course was the topic of intellectual disabilities. It directly impacted me. The delivery of that component directly impacted me. because I have my own thoughts and philosophical leanings around the way in which intellectual disability should be dealt with within the education system. And so it would have really precipitated many kinds of feelings to me as we went through that topic. So that stood out for me. Also, the Halahan that we're using, maybe because we're using a version of the text that is prior to current time, the languaging was impacting me in a negative way. The whole use of mental retardation and just the language throughout the text, it was triggering for me because I'm very particular about the use of language. I am very much converted to the whole concept of person first language. And so the Halahan and the way in which he presented knowledge, I wasn't a fan of it, but I have been able to separate the way in which the presentation in the text looked as composed to the actual content. So that was my experience. And I think it rounded off nicely by having to work with you on this project and having chosen the whole issue of the deaf and hard of hearing.
So Mary, what kind of appearance of a newborn do if, they have any idea that their child might be, not responding well to sound?
Yes. So if a parent recognizes or believes or suspects that their child may have some level of hearing loss, whether the child may have been born with that level of hearing loss, or the child may have acquired some level of hearing loss as he or she grew, there are various points of intervention. The first point of call would be with your general practitioner, your family doctor, pediatrician, the health center, or developmental clinic, and bring that concern to the attention of the attending doctor that your child may be seeing. At all levels, all these various agencies, the doctor there would be able to do an initial screening, non-specific as it might be, but to do some kind of initial screening to further investigate your concern. If they do see something that is actually of some concern, for the most part, the child will be referred to the Drecci clinic. Drecci is on Ryson Road in Port of Spain. You would call, make an appointment to see someone at Drecci. Usually the doctor will give a referral letter, and on that referral letter, he or she will indicate what the concerns are that the parent has indicated, as well as if they themselves have seen any concerns. When they go to Drecci, they will see a doctor there, and then the child will be exposed to various tests based on the age of the child, the amount of hearing loss that the child may present with, and other circumstances. Coming out of the tests at Drecci, the child may then be expected to see an audiologist or a specialized doctor who looks at various ways of offering remediation for hearing loss, if that is in fact possible. And if remediation is not possible, making recommendations for assistive devices, inclusive of hearing aids, or if a cochlear implant may be something that can be considered. That can also be accessed at Drecci, or it can be accessed from audiologists in private practice. And I think we know of two of them, Beverly, Dr. Natasha Bratt and Dr. Pandey. Yes. And a simple Google search can produce those numbers and contact information, but I'm certain that we will also include it in this
You can find it on our contact part of
so
the
you
page.
will find it on our contact page. Also on our contact page, you will find the Speech and Language Association. And so if you have any concerns too, as the pathway of referral to follow for children who may present with hearing loss, they would also be able to advise. And on our contact page, you will find contact information for Drecci, because I saw it there. Yes? So that's how you can proceed if you have any current concerns or concerns that may come up in the future, whether you are an educator or a parent or a concerned citizen for children who are presenting with hearing loss.